let's get to some Hall of Fame voting. So Scott Rowland got in last week by 5 votes. It's interesting because we had Bob Nightingale on the next day, and Nightingale said he did not vote for Scott Rowland, but he would next year, which I don't understand because Scott Rowland's not going to hit 25 in 2023.
Wait a minute. That was based on what?
I guess he didn't think that of the candidates this year that Scott
So
Rowland.
who did he vote for?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, probably Todd Helton.
Todd Helton. When Todd Helton had 72.
Yeah,
0.5,
maybe
something
Billy
like
Wagner, who I think probably should get in. God, Billy Wagner was good. Oh, my God, was he good.
He was lights out.
Oh, and he was not very big. I just wonder, how did he generate that kind of power and speed? That
How
left arm?
about the fact that wasn't his natural throwing arm either?
What do you mean?
Billy Wagner threw left-handed because he hurt his arm, he broke his arm or something as a kid.
Really?
Oh.
His natural throwing is right-handed.
Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
He had to learn how to throw left-handed.
That's impressive.
So you're telling me I screwed up. I could be.
You could have been
I
a
could have been
lefty.
a crafty lefty.
You
Pete
could have.
Falcone.
I don't know. Crafty would have been the only way. It wouldn't have because of your fastball.
I did some
You're crafty now, Frank.
That's
So
right.
it's not talent. You're just crafty.
This is true. All right. So what about Rowland getting in? You're in favor of that? Does Scott Rowland feel like a Hall of Famer?
Does he feel like one? I'd say yes. I mean, here's the thing that I cannot figure about the Hall of Fame voting. It seems more arbitrary now than it's ever been. In the sense that we're confused about this moral clause, and the moral clause, to me, in today's culture, doesn't seem like it should be as big a factor as it becomes. And here's my point. Would a known racist like Ty Cobb get in the Hall of Fame today?
Well, Kurt Schilling's out.
Yeah.
That's my point.
Yeah.
Probably
Now
not.
Cobb's numbers are more overwhelming than Schilling's, of course.
But here's the point. Are they numbers? Or does
Personality, yeah,
or
popularity
because
content?
you happen to take a stance that nobody agrees with, and I'm not even agreeing with Ty Cobb, and his different time, different part of our history, but he would not have a chance today. A chance. Either with Bob Feller. Bob Feller wouldn't have a chance today. Bob Feller was a known racist. Or I don't know if he was a known. He said racist things that if that was even uttered in private, it would come out and he wouldn't get in.
Sometimes they just screw up, though.
Who does?
The voters. They just mess up. And sometimes it's tough to get back in it. Like Simmons off the ballot didn't get 5%, then all of a sudden, years later he's in. Let me give you one example, and I just heard from his son because I did a commentary on TV about it. Ken Boyer played in 11 All-Star games. 11 All-Star games, and is not in the Hall of Fame. Now, the commish may do something about it this year, and they're trying to, but I don't know how you could be like the best at your position for 11 years, over a decade.
What about Andrew Jones?
Well,
Andrew Jones, to me, is the best center. He's the best defense I've ever seen.
Really?
I mean, he was. I mean, I won 5. He was better than I was defensively. And overall, he got hit almost 450 home runs, Frank.
Yeah.
And he had 10 Gold Gloves in a row. What more do you need to be a first-time Hall of Fame baller? You need another 40 or 50 home runs? I mean, if he gets to 500, is that now automatic?
Okay.
What do you get, 40% of the vote?
Yeah, the argument against him, he's a lifetime 254 hitter. Now, he did hit 400 home runs.
Okay, so here's my point again. Nobody cares about batting average anymore.
That's true.
So
I think he's got a good shot to get in. It's amazing how they make people wait. Oh, well, you have a 254 average, so you're going to have to wait. I bet that'd be the lowest average to ever get in. Reggie's at 263.
It might be the reason. But to me, it's the total body of work. It was what it comes down to.
Yeah. 5 All-Stars, 10 Gold Gloves, Silver Slugger. And, yeah, that you can't get off that 434. That's 434 home runs is serious.
Right. And played Jim Edmonds and him played as shallow center field maybe in the history of baseball. I mean, Andrew Jones, I can remember being at the plate one time, and he's a rookie, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm a veteran at this point. I've already played 10 years in the big leagues. I'm a center fielder. I used to like to play as shallow as I could possibly play. And he would play a good 10 or 15 feet shallower than I did. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. And sure enough, I'd hit a line drive over his head, and he'd go get it, and I'd be sitting back at the bench thinking, there's no way that any other center fielder in baseball would catch this ball.
There's only 3 hitters in the Hall of Fame with a sub-260 batting average. Kilbrew, Rabbit, Moranville, and Ray Shalak.
Okay, forget those
That's
two.
it.
Let's go Killebrew because he's modern. But he's well over 500 home runs, like 565. He had a huge number, right? Mm-hmm. And now, granted, he wasn't the defensive equivalent of Andrew Jones, but his power stats are insane. What was he?
573 home runs.
Yeah.
Probably
256 batting average.
You know, and it's a lot easier to hit home runs today than it was back then. So that's even more impressive.
Okay, on Edmonds, if your OPS is 903 with those defensive metrics and nearly 400 home runs, I think he's going to get in because it's, as Simmons said, the stat geeks got him in, and the stat geeks are going to get Edmonds in eventually.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, it'll go through that special
So
ballot.
how many years has he been on the ballot now?
Well, he's off because he didn't get enough.
Oh, I thought he did.
No, I think he's off.
Okay, so he's a veteran. He's going to be a Veterans Committee guy.
Yeah. But would you think, when you think Jim Edmonds, would you think Hall of Fame? What's his wins above replacement, Jim Edmonds, real quick? I bet it's like 84. I mean, 80.
No, not that high.
Well, Rollins was 70.
Yeah, Rollins was 70.
Career WAR. What do you got there?
But the 903,
3 OPS is.
that's really high.
How do you not get in with a 903?
And he played 15 years, right?
60.4.
16 years?
So Rollins was 10 points higher than Edmonds. Career WAR. Is that right? Is that official?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why it's
Maybe not.
maybe not, but he was good. And again, and another problem you have with the perception of how a player qualifies to get in the Hall of Fame is, what if you have in his generation at his position a couple players that maybe a little bit better and play the same amount of time and have a little bit better numbers? That probably disqualifies a lot of players based on the fact that he played in a time period when there were Hall of Famers at his position too.
That's true.
That definitely has a big effect.
Frank, I got a fun one for you. Scott Rowland had a defensive WAR of 21 in 17 seasons, and Jim Edmonds was only 6.
Huh.
I would think that Edmonds would have been higher.
Gosh, I don't know.
How do they determine
How
that?
do you, yeah, that's another thing.
I don't know.
'Cause wouldn't you
how
say-
do you, what is the equation defensively that puts you in a certain stat? That's really, really hard for me to understand. Again, because Jim Edmonds, let's say Jim Edmonds played deeper, okay, and he got the balls maybe in the gaps or at the wall better than he did. But again, there's going to be more balls hit in front of you. It's to me, the defensive stats are a little bit arbitrary in the sense that it's so difficult
But
to measure defense to me.
strictly eye test.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
It's by eye a lot of times.
Wouldn't you say that Scott Rowland is the defensive equivalent, or Jim Edmonds is the defensive equivalent of Scott Rowland? You wouldn't say one of them is better.
I would say Rollins was a better defensive player at his position than Jim Edmonds.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well, I guess I can
Here-
see
here's
that
another thing.
because I only saw one better than Rowland, and that's the guy playing now.
Yes.
And with Edmonds, you could say, heck, you could say Andrew Jones, you could say yourself, you could say
Ken Griffey, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, it's not clear cut defensively for Jim Edmonds. Here's another thing that I like Jim, but he timed a lot of balls too.
What does that mean?
It means that if you really,
You're saying being theatrical?
He was a showman.
I see the game different than you do probably because I played it. Okay, so I see things maybe that the average fan doesn't see. I understand what it takes to get to a ball in the gap. I even understand how to screw up a third base better than anybody else, okay, because that was really bad. And I know what a really good defensive third baseman looks like, because when I looked in the mirror, there wasn't one there. So my point is that Jim would take off for a ball a lot of times, going at, maybe 75%, knowing that he was going to catch the ball, and then would speed up at the very end to dive for a ball that if he had just gone hard in the beginning, he would have caught it in his back pocket.
Yeah. I don't think anybody
you saw him play.
I don't think anybody would argue with what you just said. I think everybody always felt, okay, maybe you didn't have to.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And not only that, I think it really turned me off. He'd be running full blast, slow down, hit the wall, catch the ball, and, man, you think he got shot by an AR-15. The train would run out there. Tony the Russo would run out there. He, to me, reminds me he reminds me of a professional soccer player. You know what I'm saying?
Those guys are the worst.
No, but of all the players I've ever played against or seen, he was more like a professional soccer player when it came to being hurt. These soccer players, they fall down, they roll around like they've just been shot. They get up, and then, a minute later, they score a goal.
All right, another thought, baseball-related. One of the big off-season stories during the winter warm-up, and then recently there have been articles written about it, is the involvement of Paul DeJong as a hitter, where he's cut back on the big leg kick, and he's tried to mimic the swing of Paul Goldschmidt. There's not many examples of guys who, in the primes of their careers, who fall off the face of the earth and have 2 miserable years. But he is a bright guy, and he did have a stretch of 3 years and 74 home runs. Do you think there's hope there?
Hope? I think everybody hopes for that to be the case.
Would it shock you?
Would it shock me? I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be surprised. Put it that way. And there's a big difference being surprised and being shocked. And to make that big of an adjustment, to go from a big leg kick, mechanically, he had a really big leg kick, to having no leg kick, it's really hard for me to articulate how difficult that is. I mean, everybody makes little increment swing changes during their career. Nobody hits the same way mechanically or mentally the first year of their big league career as, let's say, the 10th year of their big league career. But the difference between having a big leg kick and having no leg kick, Frank, I've never seen a player make that big of an adjustment. You make an adjustment as far as, your hand position or your setup. It's just like golf. A lot of guys, their swing changes is actually not even anything but the way they set up to the ball. Like Rahm, who had a bad stretch. I saw him talking on the Golf Channel the other day. He made a swing change. You know what it was? He moved like 1 inch closer to the ball in his setup.
Wow.
That was his swing change. I mean, that's a tiny little increment of a swing change in golf. But you're talking about a guy who has a leg kick and a stride of 2 feet, no leg kick to a stride of maybe 2 inches. That is a huge, huge difference.
But you'd like to think that at his age, he hasn't really lost bat speed. He has great hand-eye coordination. He's done it before. He's a smart guy.
And here's the thing. What's the downside?
Yeah.
There's no downside.
Can't get any worse.
Right. There's no downside. So that in itself, if that's a positive in his mind, that he thinks has a chance of being more successful, I say go for it, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well,
As a matter of fact, I would. There's a lot of times that I wish younger players would make a big adjustment. I had to make a big adjustment. One of my goals was to try to hit 300 in the big leagues, and I had to swallow my ego a little bit. I talked to Tony Gwynn about how do you hit the ball to the opposite field more to raise your batting average, and you do have to make swing changes if you want goals to be achieved. You're not gonna achieve goals unless you make changes. And what do we always say about past behavior is future behavior? Well, DeJong, his future was going to be exactly what it's been the last 3 years unless he makes a change.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be shocking because we have the World Baseball Classic where Tommy Edmonds is going to be gone for 3 weeks and he's going to get a lot of at-bats. Wouldn't that be stunning if he wins the shortstop job and then you have to move Edmund to second and then you got this whole dilemma, where you got to play Nolan Gorman and what do you do?
That causes a big problem because now, just because he has 3 weeks in spring training, which you never evaluate a player's future based on spring training, don't do it. It's one of the biggest mistakes that Major League Baseball teams make is they think that what they see in spring training is what they're going to see during the regular season. Now, that may be the case for a guy like Goldschmidt. If Goldschmidt hits 400 for 3 weeks in spring training, you're not shocked. And you know that he's not going to hit 400 during the course of the season, but he's not going to hit 200 either. But the problem is if DeJong hits 400 for 3 weeks, that doesn't mean he's not going to hit 200 in the middle of July for 3 weeks. He may end up hitting 050.
Yeah. But also, he's the only other guy in the organization who's capable of playing shortstop in the big leagues for the Cardinals right now. Because Mason Wynn, they're not going to even think about this year.
But my point being is, let's say he does have a great spring training. And now he wins the starting job, supposedly wins the starting job, whatever that means, that's at shortstop. You move Tommy Edmonds to second base. Now you got a problem.
Real problem.
You got a guy that potentially could hit 40 home runs in a full season. What do you do with him?
Yeah, and
you can't sit him.
Nope.
You can't trade him. You can't trade Gorman at this point. You can trade Carlson easily, much more easily than you can Gorman. So that in a sense, his success could actually cause a problem for the Cardinals.
Yeah. Not to mention they got another guy in the organization who had a near 400 on base percentage last year that played a lot of second base.
And what do you do with him?
I don't know.
A good problem to have, though.
It is.
It's a problem, but it's a darn good one to have.
But I'd really love to see DeJong's such a good guy. He's been through so
Absolutely.
much. It's kind of cool for him to see.
He's a really neat guy, solid guy.
Smart guy.
Smart, not excitable, doesn't says all the right things. Man, it would be awesome if he came back and could hit 25 home runs for the Cardinals. Again, if that's the case, it's gonna create some problems, but it's a good problem to have.